Making salsa at home is so easy. You just whiz tomatoes, onions, and a pepper in a blender for a minute, right? But then you do it, and you taste it, and it's just not very good. Kind of watery, and for some reason, foamy? I'm gonna help you fix that, but the video is gonna be split into 2 parts. For the first half, let's say that you don't wanna learn any new recipes. You just wanna stick to the ingredients you already use. If that's you, these alterations to your technique will guarantee you never make a bland batch again. 1. Make a small amount. I know the economy of scale is on your side here, but try to make salsa at most 1 pint at a time. Small batches are a lot easier to make, so you make it more often instead of treating it like a big undertaking, and fresh salsa doesn't have chemical preservatives added to it, so making a small amount ensures you get to eat it all before it develops mold. 2. You have to cook the tomatoes, onion, and peppers before they go in. Yes, this is salsa fresca erasure, but just put that out of your mind for now. You can boil these base ingredients in water until they dull in color. You can char them under a broiler. You can grill them over open flames. That's actually my favorite method, but the one that I do most often is dry roasting the ingredients in a non-stick pan over medium heat until they're browned all over. It's faster than preheating the grill, and it doesn't need to be babysat as much as a potentially sooty fire. Whichever approach you go with, make sure that the garlic, tomatoes, onions, and peppers are cooked in some way before mashing them up. 3. Salsa is one of those culinary products that's meant to be a celebration of the ingredients. If you use bland, out-of-season tomatoes, your salsa will taste like it's bland and out of season. This is your winter tomato. A lot of restaurants will rely on canned tomatoes to make a consistent product with less seasonal variability, and they're also pre-cooked, so you save a step. If you love a fire truck red salsa from, say, Rubio's, you'll probably want to go with canned tomatoes every time anyway. Brie loves the sweetness. I find it a little bit ketchup-y. To each their own. 4. If you're going to use a blender, pulse it on its lowest speed. Ripping salsa in a high-speed blender incorporates a ton of air, so it comes out foamy like a smoothie. Most of the time I use a food processor since it's way less powerful and doesn't pull a bunch of air into a deep central vortex. My favorite method is to use a molcajete instead of any electronics. It's a matter of preference, but I like the irregular texture that it yields. Certainly not what I'd call chunky, but far from perfectly smooth. I'll leave a link to this Hacienda model in the description. Molcajetes are available in Mexican supermarkets, and buying one online is way more expensive, but if there's anything I've learned from my tinga and tortilla videos, it's that a lot of you don't have local Mexican supermarkets. 5. If I put cilantro in my salsa, I almost never use the leaves. Cilantro stems are flavorful, tender enough to blend, yet hardy enough to not get all wilty. It always feels good to cook with something that you'd otherwise throw away, but cilantro stems are a legitimately great ingredient, even if you ignore that. 6, and this is the last one, treat tomatoes like a contributor of water and mass more than anything else. Where a newbie might think salsa is a tomato-based foodstuff, I should use a lot of tomatoes, a veteran knows that you get far more flavor from things like chilies, herbs, and aromatics. I try to use as little tomato as possible, like 2 romas worth, and I'll only add another one for dilution if it comes out too spicy. A quick note before I go any deeper, the word salsa is Spanish for sauce. This is as broad as any food definition can be. Those who love to play debate lord games like Is Cereal Soup will delight in the notion that any food broken down smaller than a fine dice is technically a salsa. And so this could be a 10-second long YouTube video. How do you make salsa? You take literally anything and puree it. But there is a platonic ideal that probably comes to your mind upon hearing the word, so I want to explain a couple other words that let eaters know what they're in for. If the ingredients were grilled and charred, they'll make a salsa tatemada, usually dark red with specks of black in it. If the salsa wasn't cooked at all, that would be salsa fresca or salsa cruda. You're probably familiar with pico de gallo, and that's one of these. Salsa verde just means it's green, which might be because it's made out of tart green tomatillos or because it's like 75% jalapeño. Some tomatillo-based salsas have so much dried chili in them that they come out red, so when you hear salsa verde, all you can predict is the color, not really the components. Salsa frita means the salsa has been fried in hot fat, so you can expect more richness, and salsa borracha means literally drunken salsa, letting you know that it was made in the presence of alcohol, probably a beer that got cooked down into the mix. So this video is going to be 2 hours long in order to provide a recipe for every single one of those variations, right? Here's the thing. Anyone who makes salsa on a regular basis understands this to be true. There is no real recipe for salsa. It might be made as a dipping sauce, a seasoning, or a condiment, but it's always made, at least partly, out of what you've got lying around. But even if I were to tediously outline a highly open-ended salsa framework or decision tree, I understand that YouTube viewers demand recipes. So here's my compromise, a rapid-fire series of basic ingredient combinations that if you make at least once, you will learn all that you need to know about salsa, down to the delicate balancing act between dark dried chilies and bright acids, between sweet fruit and spicy peppers. Here we go. Basic red table salsa. A clove of garlic, a quarter of an onion, 1 jalapeno, and 2 small Roma tomatoes. Cook everything down in water, over fire, or in a pan until it changes color, and then process or blend on low speed. Season to taste with salt. This is the kind of salsa you would use for scooping up in huge amounts with hefty chips. Out of season salsa, swap the fresh Romas from the previous recipe for a 10-ounce can of diced tomatoes. Around here they sell them fire roasted or with diced chilies mixed in. If all you have is plain, that's fine. But for this one, add a couple tablespoons of chopped cilantro stems. This is a lesson on how fresh herbs can liven up that jammy, canned tomato flavor. Basic green salsa. Swap the red Roma or canned tomatoes for 4 to 5 green tomatillos. Take the papery skins off before roasting or boiling. This one teaches you how acidic salsa can be, enough to preserve avocados such that they don't turn brown. Matter of fact, go ahead and blend the flesh of a whole avocado into this green salsa. It makes for a rich, verdant sauce that stays bright green all week long. And even though it contains no lime juice, the tomatillos are so tart that they easily balance the avocado and any fatty food that you plop it on, including this hunk of fried fish. Mild salsa. Take any of these recipes and swap the jalapeno for a mild pepper like poblano or canned hatch green chili. I can't co-sign this behavior, but I feel obligated to mention it. Hotter salsa. Swap the pepper for serranos or habaneros. Finally, more complex salsa. Once you break out of these basic templates and introduce dried chilies, the act of introducing and balancing flavors becomes more artistically involved. If you've ever been to a store with lots of dried chilies and thought, I wonder what chile morita or chile puya tastes like, pop a palmful into your most basic, most familiar salsa recipe and see how intensely floral and fruity they can be. Chiles de árbol are extremely spicy. I'm pretty sure my buddy Armando's mom uses a ton of these because the salsa at her house is always a face melter. Chipotles are dark and smoky with barely any heat. These are just ripe red jalapenos that have been smoked, and the canned ones are soaked in adobo sauce. Anchos have virtually no spice. They're all sweetness. That's because they're just mild poblano peppers that have been ripened and then dried. Most peppers turn from green to red when they're left on the vine to ripen all the way, and most peppers get a whole new name after they've been dried. Fully ripening and drying is where that new complexity comes from, and ultimately this is where I stop holding your hand and send you alone into the world of dried chili research, because it's one that's rich with subtlety, taxonomy, and nuance. It's also where you start getting into the topic of salsa macha, which is like Mexico's version of laugan ma, and that's a whole other topic at this point. Here's the deal. True salsa proficiency cannot be learned over video. That's because salsa mastery is highly situational. You might be overrun with pineapples, kiwis, or strawberries when you finally try blending sweet fruits into salsa. You might be crunched for time when you just blend all the ingredients raw and cook them down post-blend in a frying pan with a thin film of lard to make salsa frita. You might be hungover after a house party when you pour a wounded soldier from the night before into your pan to make a salsa borracha for huevos rancheros. Out of all these highly specific hypothetical situations, there's one in particular I'm hoping for. That you happen to be feeling a little extra motivated the day a new YouTube video pops up in your feed that ends with the host saying, "Try making your own salsa today." Trade has paid to be mentioned at the end of this video. Trade is my only source for coffee. It's the highest quality and lowest price I can find for freshly and locally roasted coffees online. Not one or the other, but both. It's good quality and a fair price. You subscribe according to how often you need fresh coffee, and then their technology pairs you with the varieties that you are most likely to love. Then it's roasted to order before being sent your way. We're still working out our lifestyle with a 6-month-old, so I make espresso when I'm alone and then a pot of coffee when my wife is working from home. I pick a coffee that works well for both preparations with a nice, agreeable, medium roast level. Visit drinktrade.com/Shaquille to sign up and save $15 on select plans and get your first bag of coffee for free. If you're on the fence about trying Trade, they're willing to give you a free bag of coffee to prove that it rocks. That's drinktrade.com/Shaquille, and there's a link in the description if you don't want to type it out yourself.